Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome back, welcome back. All right, looks like we are all good and to go. Checking one thing real quick. All right, sounds good to me. Okay, welcome everybody. Hello, weekly guided meditation. My name is Mike Zattel, Buddhist meditation teacher. Each week, I like to come so we can sit together, do some guided meditation, maybe have a little bit of theory, Buddhist psychology. Today, what I'm going to be doing is doing a sit where it's titled Self-Liberating Awareness. Yeah. How is it that whatever arises can self-liberate? So what does that mean? By contrast, moment by moment, day by day, there tends to be a sense of our identity is fixated to something. Yeah. We go through the day and there's a sense of a worrying thought, some anxiety, some sort of remorse, or some sort of excitement. Something is happening, triggered in the mind or the body that gives us a sense of I am. Oftentimes, it tends to be, how shall we say, an unpleasant experience. So that's where really the utility of liberating from that comes. Is somebody might ask, well, what if it is born of an excitement? What if it is born out of something pleasant in one's experience? Well, how is it that rather than we can become the tendencies to become attached to that, rather than becoming attached to it, how is it that we can just lean into appreciation and allow that to, how shall we say, sink in like a water sinking into sand, being absorbed, so we can actually meet with some degree of satisfaction. So, we're going to be focusing on the self-liberating component. Um, okay, without further ado, let's just get into a sit. So allow yourself to come to a comfortable upright position. Okay. So straightening up and settling in. Allowing your seat to root into the cushion, one vertebrae stacked upon the next. Allowing shoulders to drop down the back, as though there's a string at the top of the head, pulling ever so slightly upwards, allowing for a lengthening in the back of the neck. And allow yourself to settle into posture. Just taking a moment to recognize whatever it is that you're bringing in with you in this moment, in the body. And recognizing whatever it is that you're bringing in with you, with your mind, into this moment. So looking upon both of these lightly. As we begin to turn our attention towards the shamatha object of focus, that is to say, something that when you place your attention upon it, that object is consistently, readily available. And when we rest our attention on it, it is relatively pleasant, potentially soothing, creating the conditions for the mind to settle. So, manasikara, that is the term for attention, placing our attention, in this case, on the breath. So, let's go old school, traditional, placing your attention on the breath as it passes around the area of the nose, in front of the nose, maybe that cleft and that upper lip. So, part of being aware of the breath. Can we be present with that full cycle of breath? The in breath, the top of the in breath, the out breath, the base of the out breath. Noticing the pleasant feel tone available on that in breath. What are the pleasant qualities that are available there? The pleasant hedonic tone, quality of joy, wakefulness, and energy. Just allowing yourself to attune to whatever is pleasant about that in breath. Discern what it is, meet it with this acceptance and appreciation. And what's available at that top of the in breath. When we naturally are finished with the breathing in, there's that momentary pause before exhaling. What's available there? Some people report a fullness, a wakefulness. Just notice what is pleasantly available at that top of the in breath. And give yourself permission to feel. We're not lengthening or changing our breath in any way. That pause happens whether we're slow or quick, deep or shallow in breath. Just be present for it when it occurs naturally. And what's available on that out breath? Letting go the inherent relaxation response and relinquishing and lightening up. Whatever pleasant themes you find available inherently within that out breath, just discern, notice, and appreciate. And what's available at that base of the out breath. Again, when we come to the natural pause at the end of the out breath, before we begin to breathe in again, what is pleasant there? And emptying out a tranquility, a peacefulness, an equanimity. Whatever it is, discern and appreciate it. Allow that in. And so as you go through the cycle of breath, We're just riding this edge that is ever unfolding into this present moment, attuning ourselves to the pleasant feel tones that are available as we cycle around these 4 points of the breath. So, certain mental factors are at play, the vitaka vichara, the application of our attention onto the given shamatha object, and the sustained placing, that sustained connection with the object. Kind of a lighter application bringing over, and then a more definitive clicking. Ideally, eventually, like two magnets connecting, the attention clicking into the object of focus. Okay, good. So, as we're attempting to maintain contact with the breath, we continue to reaffirm our attention on the breath. I'm sure all kinds of things are happening in the background. Various thoughts and feelings rising and passing. Perfectly normal, totally okay. Let's open up to involve that now. So, moment by moment, the images may arise that you see in the mind's eye, the general sea space there. Moment by moment, internal talk can arise. The inner commentaries, the conversations, the audio component of thought can occur between the ears and hearing space. And of course, the various emotional flavors can rise and pass within the overall regions of space in the body. that are attuned to feel emotion. We have the general seeing, hearing, and feeling that occurs moment by moment. And so open up your attention to include that activity as well. Moment by moment, there's some degree of seeing, hearing, feeling that arises and passes. If you'd like, you could use those labels. See whenever your attention is brought into see space. Hear whenever your attention is brought into hear space. Feel whenever your attention is brought into feel space. And just contact in that moment and have a sense of acceptance, equanimity with whatever that experience is. So we're going to have the breath be in the background. Now we're just turning to the flow of sensory experience amongst see, hear, and feel. So it might sound like this. Feel, hear, see, and feel. And so on like that. Continue to remain vigilant. Where is your attention now? Go moving more towards this open monitoring, this free floating awareness. Whatever it is you are experiencing, it's some expression of seeing, hearing, or feeling. Stay present. Each moment of contact, that is a vitalizing of a kanika samadhi, or a momentary concentration. And if you like, we can further refine this moment by moment. There may be activation. There's stuff we see that's thinking, there's stuff we hear that's thinking, there's stuff we feel that's emotional reactions. And moment by moment, there may be quietness. There could be a see rest, that is to say, in see space, ain't nothing happening. You're looking at the backs of your eyelids, it's empty in see space. Or moment by moment, it could be quiet in between the ears. No internal talk. It's just hear rest. And moment by moment, we may connect with restful flavors within the body. So we can notice this interplay of active versus rest. So if you like, I invite you, moment by moment. It's either see active, hear active, feel active, or see rest, hear rest, feel rest. Leaning into that labeling set if it feels appropriate. Otherwise, just quietly be aware of the interplay between active and rest in see, hear, and feel. Whatever you notice, equanimity, acceptance, allowance, permission for that activity to just complete itself. We step back, we're not intervening upon our experience in any way, we're just allowing it to do its dance. Just inclining yourself to be attuned to the rest. Let's just notice the rest when it arises. Still staying alert, focused, open. And when needed, that breath is still there with all of those pleasant qualities to it to help. If we need a little bit more energy, lean into that first half of that breath, derive more energy. If we're a little restless or overly stimulated, lean into that second half of the breath. The relinquishing and the relaxation response follows. Okay, good. Leaning into the restful qualities. Can we take that a step back? Bring your attention to sea rest. And can we step back a little bit into that seeing awareness, or that awareness that sees, that brightness, that vibrance, that conscious awareness from which attention emanates. Seeing back. being aware of your space and the hearing back. A little more deeply into the mind there, a little more deeply into that space, we can discern just that quality. It's awake, alive, aware, a quality of awareness from which the attention emanates in here space. This is subtle. We're moving into a real appreciation of the various flavors of awareness. That alive flavor, that which is sentient. That jivatendriya, that life force energy within awareness, at the root of here space. And of course, the awareness within feel space, that which is awake, alive, sentient, that life force energy available and known only as it can be known in the body. Okay, good. Just bring that all together, whether it's the awareness experienced primarily mentally, primarily somatically, physically. Just rest in that awareness. That originates in this mind body space. And appreciate the qualities: vibrant, vitalizing, affirmative, joyful, resplendent. And whatever your experience is, just bring to it a sense of equanimity, acceptance, allowance, permission, and a little bit more kindness. It's the contractive expression of awareness within this mind body space, but also awareness thrust out into this environment around. For instance, wherever a sound arises, whether it's a few feet away or a few miles away, there is awareness there to meet it. This awareness extends outward in all directions. Play with, explore the expansive expression of awareness. Open, fluid, compassionate. Fluid, expansive, content. And allowing awareness, or allowing actually the attention to free float within this open awareness. Moments by moment, you may be more aware of the expansive expression of awareness. And from time to time, you may become more attuned to the contractive expression of awareness within the mind and body. So, allowing attention to free float between the expansive and contractive expressions of awareness. Whenever you're primarily aware of the expansive quality, just permit and allow it. When you're primarily aware of the contractive quality, just permit and allow it. Just allowing yourself to just abide in this open awareness, expansive, contracted fluid, however it presents itself to you. And of course, the thoughts may still arise from time to time. Knots of emotion, the subcomponents of self may start to rise here and there and coagulate together. If we can keep this discernment open as we're resting in this wider awareness, the thoughts themselves don't necessarily need to lead to the next thought or trigger the next emotion. The seeing can fade away, the internal hearing can fade away, the emotive reactivity can on its own fade away. Thus, abiding in this open, compassionate awareness creates an environment that is not hospitable for coagulating together of a displeased self. Continue to just infuse this awareness with qualities of metta, infusing and abiding in this space, infusing it with qualities of joy, joyful appreciation, infusing this spaciousness with a bit more compassion. And infusing the space with a bit more equanimity, allowance, acceptance. Okay. At ease. Okay. So the it's warm inside here. Can't have the fan on, or else the microphone picks it all up. So looking forward to the winter. He says now this time of year. Um, what we did there today. Um, how shall we put this? Started off with shamatha, uh, uh, or the landing of our attention on the shamatha object of focus. So again, shamatha, calm, abiding. Uh, uh, um, One of the phrases from the suttas is as if resolving of an issue. I like that because when we have an issue, there's a sense of urgency, isn't there? And when we have the experience of shamatha, that sense of urgency may dissolve or at least significantly drop. So let's just say the thoughts and feelings are occurring in the beginning of our sit, and then at a certain point in our sit, the thoughts and feelings may still be churning along, doing their thing, but maybe we're not responding or reacting to them. Maybe we just don't care as much. There's the viraga or the dispassion. Yeah. So there's that quality of shamatha that can occur, the downgrading, the calm abiding that can happen. As well, another expression of the shamatha is the absorption, the absorptive qualities. So the more that we can have our attention really drawn into whatever it is that we're focusing on, the more the different strands of attention kind of align together. So we can have a very steady, purposeful stream. So, starting off with that shamatha object of focus by noticing the different facets of the pleasant attributes of breath as we went around that cycle. Yeah, so the anapana, we started off with this traditional anapanasati focus, narrow focus at the nose, being able to be aware of 4 points of breath. That's something that I do. Noticing the pleasant qualities there to help support an absorptive focus, or at least a stabilizing of our attention. Then we started to just turn our attention towards whatever activity is occurring in the mind and body, parsing it out in the see, hear, feel fashion, noticing the activity of mind and body with a heightened sensory clarity, heightened concentration, heightened equanimity. And in order to, and that's also part of the liberative component. We are, the more that we can clearly see the rise and passing of the activity within the mind and body, the less inclined we are to unconsciously attach to and form an identity around that particular anxiety or that particular aversion or that particular craving, et cetera, et cetera. So we're just noticing the activity. But then we start to increase our discernment to notice, sometimes we're drawn into see, hear, or feel, and it's active. There's content happening. Sometimes we're drawn into see, hear, or feel, and it's nothing happening. It's quite empty, somewhat restful. And so we're noticing that interplay of active and rest in mind and body, ultimately inclining ourselves towards rest, inclining ourselves to notice the rest. The challenge of that and the genius of that is that, well, our minds are inclined to notice the active. Yeah. If even if we're not diagnosed as ADD, ADHD, still our minds are inclined to notice what's that? What's that? What's the new information that comes on the scene? So when we can um, look instead towards the quieter experience of what's not happening, where's it restful, we can notice that that is more often than not happening or not happening somewhere. Yeah. And so if we can incline ourselves to notice the rest states, we can still be awake, aware, present, but not overly stimulated or attached to any thoughts or feelings arising. So there's a part of how shall we say, a cleansing of the mind and body in that respect, being able to abide in the rest in the mind and the body. And then taking that a step further, or a step back, as it were, and noticing that quality of awareness. Yeah. A little bit more of a self inquiry flavor there, leaning back. So there's Yeah. I'm seeing outward into the objects that are filling up the external visual plane, or I can bring my attention to the eyes itself. I can bring my attention inside to notice the seeing space that we're playing with, whether there's images happening or it's restful. And I can even kind of go back a little further from that and just be having my attention rest in this quality of awareness from which attention originates from. And so we're playing with that and seeing, hearing, and feeling. And when we can allow our attention to rest onto that internally generated awareness and have our attention really um, click on that, that could be a particularly dynamic focus in a lot of respects because there's something very vitalizing. There's something very energizing about that experience, and yet at the same time, something very non um, activating. Yeah, it tends to um, support qualities of restfulness, yeah, or non origination of self, as it were. Yeah. Then we went into observing awareness and then some more expansive expression, and then noticing that interplay. Yeah. And so when we were looking backwards, earlier on, I talked about the Palatar Manasakara, meaning attention. Yeah, so our attention is placing my attention on the breath at the nose. I'm placing my attention in sea space. I'm moving the attention to certain places. Then there's the term Yaniso Manasakara, meaning the attention turned inward, or wise attention, it's most often translated as. But another translation that I feel more fitting is turning the attention towards the womb. Yeah, the womb where the self is made, the womb from which the personal identity arises, the personality view, the egoic self. Yeah, that arises within those deep, subtle qualities of seeing, hearing, feeling, the deep, subtle places in mind and body. So when we can have our attention just rest on those places from which those sensory streams originate from, and appreciate the non-origination, appreciate the restfulness there, and just hang out in the awareness that's there, the vibrancy of awareness that's there. That can be quite a liberating experience. Yeah, if we compare that to when we are frantic, frenetic, and overwhelmed. So that quality of the Yaniso Manisakara, and then relating it to the theme of the self-liberating awareness. Yeah. So the self in that respect, that I am, that personality view. At some point, I believe I said something along the lines of creates an environment that's inhospitable towards the arising of self. Um, I had some flagrant languaging there, but uh, uh, in my own experience and in the experience with many with whom I work, that seems to be the experience. Um, when we can have our attention just rest in non-origination, yeah, there can still be subtle activation that happens, but the thoughts and the feelings don't tend to gel together to form a personality view. Yeah, the thoughts and the feelings don't tend to coagulate. I like that term, where then there's a solid sense of I am that is wrapped around some sense of discontent. Yeah, so in a way, it is an awareness that is self-liberating. So that's pretty much what we did today. I appreciate you coming out. I appreciate you giving your attention and cultivating your intention in this respect. So feel free to practice this on your own. Feel free to reach out with any questions. I have my information, I believe, in the About section there. So feel free to reach out if you'd like. Okay, we can end with a dedication of merit. And by the merits of these acts and other such virtues, may we attain a liberation for the benefit of all beings. We bow before those that come before us, after us, and to those who walk beside us on the path. Hope to see you all next week. Bye bye.